Sports Desk at the Columbus Dispatch presents the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast. With your host, Ohio State basketball beat writer Adam Jardy.
Brandon Matisse says, give me the rock. Here it goes. Up and away. Slam jam bam. And now he does a little dance.
Now, the BuckeyeXtra Basketball Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Adam Jardy from the Columbus Dispatch. Today is Saturday, January 31st, 2026. It's my official duty to welcome you into episode 528 of the BuckeyeXtra Men's Basketball Podcast. Welcome to Jubilation City. Welcome to the Kohl Center. I'm sitting here at my seat. We sit about 2/3 of the way up in the arena here. We're in the lower part of the upper middle section. There's 3 sections here in this arena. Got hardworking maintenance crew is here, cleaning and sweeping and all of those things. And I'm coming to you from the arena, not from my hotel or somewhere else, because I'm in a time crunch to try to get this out to you in time. Our guy Bryce Houston will be handling the podcast tonight, and I got to get this to him on deadline. So I've just finished writing my takeaways, which will be live here pretty soon, and breaking down post-game interviews. So there'll be plenty of stuff for you to read about by the time, presumably, you hear this. But final score tonight, this afternoon, from the frozen tundra that is Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin 92, Ohio State 82. And those numbers should jump off the page or out of your headphones, however it is that you're encountering them, because this was a defensive letdown for Ohio State in every sense of the term. Now, this has not been an Ohio State team that has particularly lit the world on fire with its defense this season. We've known from day one that this team was going to lean into its offense. And as I had someone point out to me before the season, sometimes the best offense or the best defense is being up 15. Well, that didn't work out for Ohio State in this game. The Buckeyes came out hot early and built a lead. But Ohio State was up 15-4 on a Taysom Chapman 3-pointer, and then it was 20-11 on a Puff Johnson 3-pointer. At that point, Ohio State had made 5 threes, and each of them was by somebody different. And the crowd here was nervous, antsy. This is a Wisconsin team unlike any that we've seen, certainly in the Greg Gard era, where elite offensively and the opposite of elite defensively. Coming into this game, Wisconsin in the Big Ten, this was the 5th worst defense in the league, allowing 74.7 points per game. So that number will tick upward. But the 4th best offense in the Big Ten. Wisconsin came in averaging 82.8 points per game, 79.9 points per game in Big Ten play. This is a Wisconsin team that likes to shoot the three, hasn't always been great at it, averaging 10.9 3-point makes per game this season. Ohio State came in 3rd in 3-point field goal percentage defense, holding teams at 30.1% on the season. So I said in my pregame video that I always do that maybe something was going to have to give. And, well, Wisconsin as a team shot pretty well from 3, 34.6%. But I'm bearing the lead here. The Badgers were 7 of 15 in the first half, while digging out of an 11-point deficit and taking a 6-point lead into the break, because Austin Rapp off the bench had 19 points on 5 of 6 shooting from 3. And if you feel like you've seen this story before, it's because you have. We've seen this. Leo O'Doyle doing it for Penn State. Is it O'Doyle or O'Boyle? I have like a mental block. I think it was O'Boyle. But certainly he was raining threes in Ohio State. I think of Rink Mast doing it at Nebraska. And Ohio State was not able to draw a line in the sand and cut off Austin Rapp, who finished with 19 points all in the first half. He did nothing in the second half for the Badgers, but the damage was done. He will be the poster child of this win. He will be the focal point for Ohio State fans that just want to say, why does this always happen to us? I talked to Bruce Thornton, Jake Diebler, and Amari Bynum after the game. I've got some insight into what went wrong there and what went wrong defensively, and we'll get to that here in a moment. But the defining characteristic of this game was that Ohio State could not get stops. And you think back to when Ohio State beat UCLA in Columbus back on January 17th, an 86-74 win. Like Mick Cronin said afterwards that like you score 70 points on the road in the league, you feel pretty good about at least being in the game. And Jake Diebler said basically the same thing in this game. You score 82 on the road. You expect that it's going to be down to the wire. It's going to go to the, you're going to have a shot to win it at the end if you've got 82 on the road. Ohio State was never within shouting distance for the entire second half of this game. Ohio State could not string together anything resembling a defensive stand to make this competitive down the stretch. And so you end up with the type of win we've literally never seen before. And this was a stat that blew my mind. It's in my takeaways. But coming into this game, Ohio State all time 31-2 against Wisconsin when scoring at least 80 points. And those two losses were both in overtime. So what we witnessed here today was the first time in the history of Ohio State-Wisconsin basketball, which dates all the way back to a 25-22 Ohio State win on January 12th, 1905, 7 years before the Titanic sank. This is the first time Ohio State scored 80-plus points against Wisconsin and lost. It just has never happened before. And certainly some of that is you credit Wisconsin, and the Badgers are playing with more pace and more tempo, and they're taking more threes, and they're doing all the things that we don't normally associate with the Badgers. But this was not a good enough defensive performance from Ohio State to put them in any sort of position to win this game. And it leaves us in the same spot where I feel like we've been with this team all season, which is that the Buckeyes continue to beat teams that they're expected to beat. And they're still looking for something resembling a signature win, a knockout win, a resume win, something that clearly says this team is a tournament team and deserves to be on the right side of the bubble. This was another one of those opportunities. And instead, Ohio State had its most porous defensive outing of the season, second worst of the Jake Diebler era. The only one that was worse than this was the Auburn loss last season in Atlanta. And that was a game Ohio State got blown out, lost 91-53, allowed 139.3 points per 100 possessions. Wisconsin in this game finished at 130.9, which I guess for just, I'm not sure the word I'm looking for here, but that 130.9, that's the worst for Ohio State's defense this season. That is tied for the seventh best of the season for the Badgers. They topped it against, it's the second best offensive outing for Wisconsin in Big Ten play. Ohio State couldn't get stops. That's the bottom line. So we'll get into some of the whys and some of the hows here in a minute. Some of the numbers that immediately jumped out to me when I looked at the final box score. Ohio State only had 7 turnovers in this game, but Wisconsin turned that into 16 points. That's hard to do. Ohio State, leading into this game, we weren't sure the status of Christoph Tilley and Gabe Cupps. When the availability report came out, Tilley was listed as questionable. No mention of Gabe Cupps. However, Devin Royal had been added to the list of questionable Buckeyes. Both played. Devin, I felt, battled. I thought Devin Royal, who turns out was dealing with an illness, and Jake Diebler said, you should have seen him this morning. He played 32 minutes and 33 seconds. He had 16 and 6, 5 of 13 from the floor, 0 of 5 from 3. So he's starting to trend in the wrong direction there. This is a prolonged shooting slump for Devin from 3. But I thought he gave them some impressive, hard-fought minutes. I thought he was battling. So he finishes with 16. Amari Bynum had 18, and Bruce Thornton had 18. Also had 3 rebounds. But Christoph Tilley was scoreless. Christoph Tilley had 8 shots from the floor. All of them were from 2-point range. He missed all of them. I felt like a tone was set early where Devin Royal had a miss on Ohio State's first possession of the game. Tilley got the rebound, and then he missed the putback. And then 2 possessions later, Thornton missed a 3-pointer, and Tilley got the rebound, and he missed at the rim. So you're 3 possessions into the game. Ohio State had not scored yet at this point. Tilley had 2 offensive rebounds, but 2 missed putbacks. I didn't think he looked anything like himself. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but You score 82 points on the road, and you get a goose egg from your 7-foot center, who misses 8 shots from the floor. Only played 18 minutes and 35 seconds. Tayson Chapman had 14 off the bench. He was 4-4 from 3. That is now 25 points in 2 games for Tayson Chapman, after having scored 27 points to this point, or after having scored 27 points all season until the Penn State game, where he earned the minutes in the absence of Gabe Cupps, and then played 3 times as much as Cupps in this game. Gabe Cupps only saw 4 minutes and 36 seconds off the bench. He had 2 points. He had a turnover and assist. It was a somewhat of a critical turnover. But Ohio State, as a team, shot 40.6%, shot 34.5% from 3, and was 16 of 18 from the line. But Wisconsin was 19 of 21 from the free throw line. So during a second half where the Badgers went 2 of 11 from 3 and regressed a little bit to the mean there to finish at 34.6%, Wisconsin was 17 of 19 from the line in the second half, continuing a trend here where Ohio State, they got to find some way to improve their free throw percentage defense because the Buckeyes right now, teams are shooting 81.1% from the line against Ohio State in Big Ten play. That is the highest mark in the Big Ten. Ohio State is dead last in free throw percentage defense, which some of that comes down to don't foul the guys who are good at making free throws, but you also are consistently, it seems like, seeing guys step up and knock down free throw after free throw against Ohio State, even when they typically don't during the season. I wonder if that regresses to the mean as the season goes on, but it's definitely a trend here for Ohio State. So Ohio State now at 14-7 overall, 6-5 in the Big Ten. We'll go to Maryland on Thursday, a place where, just like the Kohl Center, the Buckeyes don't play well, don't have success. Ohio State had not won in this building since Keita Bates-Diop played his first Big Ten game as or on his way to the Player of the Year award back in 2017. That's the last time Ohio State's won here with fans in the stands. The Buckeyes did win during COVID, which was an interesting experience. Nobody in here. They had some travel issues, and I remember sitting here right where I am right now and looking over to the luxury boxes behind the home basket for the second half, and they were just like hanging out in there. And you saw guys like on their phones, you saw guys FaceTiming people. They were stuck here. I was here working. It was a weird experience, but Ohio State won that game. They talked about how those anthracite jerseys gave them superpowers. Boy, what a time that was. Now we're going to get into the defense and what I learned after the game here. Before we do, I want to remind you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you enjoy your favorite podcasts. If you subscribe or download, you automatically get the newest ones just as soon as our crack web staff can grab them and publish them for you. In this case, that's our guy Bryce, who shout out to him for putting in the weekend time and doing his best to edit the audio that I sent him from the Michigan game. I realized upon listening that it didn't sound as good on the playback as I thought. So I might have oversold that on the last or on that episode. So I apologize for that, but appreciate Bryce for getting that on there and doing his best to clean it up and make it sound better. And thanks to him for getting this podcast out there to all of you. While you're subscribing or downloading, again, please leave a review. Please click 5 stars and please consider telling a friend. And thank you to everyone who's taken the time to do all those things and makes it possible for us to be the only Columbus media outlet that covers this team every road game. Not missed a game all season. Only one here today. So have some unique content to bring you, and I appreciate that. So thanks everyone who makes that possible. So this game turned during the final 8 odd minutes of the first half, where Ohio State had gotten out to a lead. There were 2 segments in the first half where things went sideways for Ohio State. And it started, Ohio State was up 21-11 on a Puff Johnson 3-pointer. And then John Blackwell scores on a jumper that I thought was a 3-pointer, but it wasn't. So it's 21-13. And then Puff Johnson takes the ball out underneath the basket, and Blackwell anticipates it, jumps it, grabs the ball, lays it in, 4 points in the span of a matter of seconds. And that got the crowd going. This was not like a filled to the rafters, full-throated crowd that was just living and dying at every possession. Ohio State took this crowd out of it early and was in position to keep things at arm's length. This was a critical flip in the game. That got things going. So he scores. It's 21-15. And then Tilly misses another layup attempt. This one was on the right block. He was kind of reaching for it. Doesn't fall. And then this is where our guy, Austin Rapp, starts to fire up. He hits a three. It's 21-18. Now the teams come down. They trade empty possessions. John Mobley Jr. ends up getting called for a travel, wiping out a bucket for Ohio State. And then Wisconsin moving the ball. And then, again, Rapp gets off a shot. Like, the ball is leaving his hands. The shot clock buzzer buzzes. He hits it. It's 21-21. Ohio State has a miss. Wisconsin has a miss. Amari Bynum scores. And then, once again, Austin Rapp with the three-pointer. Ohio State is down at this point, 24-23. Tayson Chapman ends up ending a possession with an air ball after Ivan Njegovan had come up with an offensive rebound. Wisconsin scores at the other end. It's a 3-point deficit. Thornton scores. Ohio State's down 1. And then one of his only 2 misses of the game from 3, but Rapp misses a 3-pointer here. It was wide open, is what I had written in my notes. It was against the zone. Amari Bynum draws a foul on a drive, hits 2 free throws with 6:30 to go. Ohio State is up by 1 at this point, 27-26. The Buckeyes would not get a defensive stop for the remainder of the half. That is 6 minutes and 30 seconds of allowing your opponent to score without getting a single stop. It was 10 straight possessions for the Badgers. It started with an Njegovan goaltending call on Rapp. And then this is where Gabe Cupps has the ball past midcourt and just kind of threw a lazy pass that was easily nabbed by Wisconsin's Nick Boyd, who scores at the other end. That's a 33-30 deficit. Chapman scores on a layup. Rapp hits a 3. It's a 4-point deficit. Cupps hits a jumper here. And then they get the ball to Nick Boyd. He scores in the paint. Devin Royal ends a possession by getting fouled. He hits 2 free throws with 3:10 to go. Ohio State's down 2. A great ball movement on this possession, and it ends with a 3-pointer from Braden Carrington. He goes 2 of 6 from 3 in this game, finishes with 7 points, but this was just great ball movement. Wisconsin at this point is 7 of 14 from 3 after having started 1 of 4 from 3. So this is a stretch going 6 of 10. Chapman hits a 3 to pull Ohio State back within 2, but then gives up a layup to Nick Boyd at the other end. It's a 4-point deficit. Thornton gets the free throw line, but misses on a sort of shot put floater type shot. And then he fouls Boyd at the other end on the fast break. He hits 2 free throws, 1:52 to go. The Ohio State's down 6. Tilly misses at the rim, and Wisconsin gets the ball to John Blackwell. He scores. It's 47-39 at this point. Thornton scores in the paint, but then Ohio State forces a 3-point miss, only to give up an offensive rebound to Nolan Winter, who finished with 11 points and 11 boards. And the possession ends with an Amari Bynum goaltending call with 31.3 seconds left. Now, Ohio State would close with a bucket on the final possession of the half after calling timeout about 2.5, 3 seconds left, drew up a baseline out of bounds play, and was really nicely executed. They threw the ball into the left corner to Bynum, who gave a head fake, drove, scored at the buzzer. I thought gave Ohio State a little bit of momentum. But then Wisconsin scored the first 4 points of the second half, pushed it back to 10. And it wasn't long from this point before the TV crews caught this going into the timeout. I didn't see it in the moment, but I asked him about this. This is the lead to my post-game or to my immediate takeaways. But Bruce Thornton got into his teammates, yelling at them, pointing. You can see it in the you could see it on the broadcast. And I asked him about it. I said, do you remember when it was? Because at this point I hadn't seen the clip yet, just I had been alerted to it via Twitter. And I thought this was telling. He couldn't remember which defensive sequence had peeved him off to this level, which I think speaks to how many there were that he wasn't sure which one it was. Bruce said, quote, "I definitely screamed at them to do stuff that we've been working on all week to prepare for this game. We weren't communicating all the little stuff we worked on. It was definitely frustrating in that time." This was a common thread in the conversations that I had with Bruce, with Amari, and with Jake. which was that it wasn't so much that Ohio State didn't know what Wisconsin was going to do or that they felt ill-prepared for what Wisconsin was going to do. It's that they just didn't execute. They didn't do it. They didn't guard guys. There wasn't a, look, this Austin Rapp dude who, yes, he showed that he's a good shooter last year at Portland. Austin Rapp in Big Ten play coming into this game was 8 of 30, 26.7% from three. Now, they knew that he was a shooter. He was on the scouting report that he was a shooter. So a guy who had 8 3-pointers made in 7 Big Ten games this season, he only played in 7 of Wisconsin's 10 Big Ten games. He had 8 made 3-pointers. He ends up going 5 of 7 and 5 of 6 in the first half to help Wisconsin overcome things. And then it just seemed like there would be stretch after stretch in this game where Ohio State was unable to get a stop. And whenever the Buckeyes were able to start getting something going offensively, it didn't matter. And case in point, Ohio State already down. It basically traded between an 8 to 12 point deficit for much of the second half once Wisconsin got it into double digits. So Thornton scored in the paint to make it 71 to 63. And then rare miss for the Badgers, Nick Boyd with a miss. And Ohio State got the ball to John Mobley on the left wing, and he fired off a pretty quick shot. Now, he's been on such a heater lately, you can sort of forgive, I think, certainly maybe a rushed shot or two. But I actually had a pretty good viewpoint on it. As soon as he let it go, it was arcing to the right, and it clearly wasn't going to fall. So he misses that shot, and then with 6:12 to go, Puff Johnson fouls Alexis Biliauskas, who, again, add this to the list. So the dude comes into the game 5 of 7 from the line in Big Ten play this season, but he was 5 of 8 on the season. So in this game, he goes 4 of 4. And here he hits 2 free throws, 6:12 to go. Ohio State's down 10. And this was a stretch where then Wisconsin would score on 9 straight possessions. So even though Ohio State would score on 5 of 6, Wisconsin still extended the lead. Ohio State's offense was getting points. They were getting downhill. They were getting to the rim. They could not get stops. And like you have sequences here where Thornton misses or makes the front end, but misses the second end of the 1-and-1 with 5:58 to go to pull Ohio State within 9. But they come up with the offensive rebound, and Tayson Chapman has the ball in the lane and goes up like he's going to shoot, but dumps down a pass to Amari Bynum that's way too hard, goes off his hands out of bounds. Diebler's telling him to shoot the ball. So Ohio State down 9, could have been down 7, 6, whatever, 6, 7. And then Wisconsin gets the ball to Braden Carrington in the left corner in front of the team bench. He's falling down. He hits the 3-pointer. So it's now back to a 12-point deficit. Chapman answers with a 3. It's 76 to 67. And then Chapman immediately fouls Boyd on the press. 5:10 to go. He hits both free throws. It's an 11-point deficit. Thornton misses a 3. Wisconsin comes down. Boyd gets fouled again, hits 2 free throws, 4:54 to go. It's a 13-point game. Nick Boyd finished this game with 21 points on 15 shots because he was 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Thornton would hit 2 free throws with 4:38 to go to pull back within 11. And then Wisconsin gets a wide open dunk for the big guy, number 32. It's a 13-point deficit. Mobley scores, but then Nolan Winter scores. And then Devin Royal hits a slam dunk. But then Tayson Chapman commits a foul, and he fouls out with 3:25 to go and sends Nolan Winter to the line. He only goes 1 of 2. So one of the 2 misses for the Badgers in this game. And it's still not over. Like, Thornton has the ball, he drives, he loses the handle, and then in his momentum runs right into John Blackwell, gets called for the foul. Blackwell hits 2 free throws. It's a 14-point deficit with 3:13 to go. Mobley misses a 3, and then Boyd again scores, and it's a 89 to 73. At this point, once Wisconsin didn't score on its next possession, breaking the stretch of 9 straight where it scored, then I stopped keeping the play-by-play because I was frantically trying to get all the different things written. They couldn't get stops. They could not get stops at such a high level that it undid an 82-point outing on the road against the Badgers. And the biggest point that was consistently made to me in post-game interviews was that guys simply weren't executing the things they had talked about. Like Bynum said, we weren't connected on our communication, and then on our rotations, we've got to be more urgent. We got to be more vocal. When we go into a zone, we've got to match up better. Thornton said we went over the game plan. The lack of communication we had really showed today. Lots of guys got wide open looks, and if you give a big-time college athlete open looks, then they're going to make them. Diebler said they got caught in two-way help situations where they weren't positioned early enough, and then when they didn't execute their coverage, and they were stuck in these long closeouts, and that led to all these wide open threes. So I asked Amari Bynum about that. Make me understand. What was the problem with trying to locate a guy like Rapp in the first half? And he said they told us to plug gaps. So we were late because we've got to plug for the guards. And by plug gaps, I think we understand that. But he said he's going to hit them because we're too late. He said we had to inch out early. There was all types of communication we needed to do. I don't really know what else to do with all of that. The Buckeyes said that they knew what they needed to do. They didn't communicate well enough, and they didn't execute well enough. I think that whatever you want to do with that information, you're allowed to do it. Because this wasn't we weren't prepared. Hey, we didn't have Christoph Tilley for pretty much the whole week, and then we didn't know if we were going to have Devin at all today, and we're still working Puff into things, and we're working Gabe back into it. And Tayson's starting to play. There's some lineup fluidity going on right now that certainly probably isn't helping, but nobody was pointing to that or saying any of those things were issues. The issues were that they weren't communicating and they didn't execute. And if you don't communicate and you don't execute, I don't really know what else there is. I do think that it's probably reasonable to assume that the lack of availability and the choppy week of practice probably had something to do with it. And I think that Ohio State's roster is a little bit more in flux this time of year than it normally would be, because you end up adding someone mid-season and you're still without a guy that you had built so much around in Brandon Knoll. I have heard, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Ohio State gets Knoll back before season's end. It could be right at the end of the season. But he's still in the walking boot, still with the crutches and the scooter. So nothing seems imminent there. They could use him. They could use him. I've been thinking that a lot these last couple of games, particularly as Tilley has been dealing with some injury issues that has clearly affected his availability and his effectiveness here these last couple of games. I mentioned Chapman, another prolific game for him off the bench. Certainly, we've heard the drumbeat of fans wanting to know why he's not playing, why they're not using him. He's producing for them offensively. He still has some issues defensively. We saw it in this game. This is not. I say that I want to back up just a little bit, because this is the night where Ohio State gave up 92 points. So we're not going to pick on one specific player potentially having some issues at one end of the floor. But it was clear that that was something. I asked Diebler about Tayson. He said his efficiency offensively has been really impressive, but we need him really immediately to take some strides defensively and be able to be more solid on that side. It's certainly encouraging. We've been looking for offensive punch off the bench all season, so we're getting a little bit more of that. He said Puff gave us a few points today. We're starting to get more production. Now I told those guys we've got to get stops. We've got to string together multiple stops. And I think that goes certainly across the board. As Ohio State leaves this game, having done something it had never done before. Like I said, Ohio State had never scored 80-plus points against Wisconsin in a regulation game and gone on to lose. And that's what we ended up watching here tonight. So I think that's probably a good place to wrap this one up. I'm not sure what else there is to say. There's more in the post-game takeaways. You can find those at dispatch.com by the time you hear this. And we'll have more, analyzing this as we continue to move forward here and get ready to go to Maryland on Thursday. Seen some doozies at the Xfinity Center. That'll be another big one for Ohio State. Oh, there was one more thing. There's a Bruce Thornton quote here that needs mentioned. I don't want to leave you without leaving you with this quote. So this is Bruce Thornton, like just in general, as we're talking about this game. He said, "I feel like today we just wasn't the Ohio State team we've been looking like all year." He said, especially defensively. 92 is a lot of points in a 40-minute game. Lack of communication. They made us pay for it. Made big time threes every time we didn't talk. When stuff like that happens, it's hard to come back from. I wanted to make sure I got that quote in here. Like I said, I'm going to wrap this one up now. As always, you can send along your questions, your comments, your love notes, your hate mail, and otherwise constructive criticism to me at Adam Jardy on Twitter or ajardydispatch.com. Thank you for listening. Thanks to Bryce for getting this out to you right up against deadline. I'll try to get you something here maybe Tuesday leading into the Maryland game. So stay tuned and stay subscribed. Until then, be kind, take care, say a prayer to the travel gods for me tomorrow, and we'll talk soon.
Be sure and subscribe to the Buckeye Extra podcast in the iTunes Store, the Google Play Store, or on Stitcher.